Invitiamo il gentile pubblico alla fine di ogni evento di collaborare per lasciare la sala per l'allestimento dell'evento successivo. Grazie.
Buon pomeriggio a tutti. Abbiamo un ospite d'eccezione per cui io chiacchiereremo e farò delle domande che andranno anche molto al di là del tema che il nostro capo ci ha assegnato. Il capo sapete chi è? L'organizzatrice, ma dov'è? Eccola lì, lei è il nostro capo. Lei ogni anno mi dice: tu devi venire nel tal giorno, alla tal ora, devi fare questa cosa. Io non discuto, arrivo, faccio quello che lei mi ha comandato, però l'unica libertà che mi prende è di andare anche fuori tema. E siccome abbiamo un ospite veramente d'eccezione, Jay Carney oggi è uno dei vicepresidenti di Amazon e si occupa di tutta la parte delle pubbliche relazioni, del corporate affairs, però ha una storia notevole alle spalle, un giornalista, ha lavorato a lungo a Time Magazine, a Washington, ha girato il mondo, ha lavorato a CNN e poi ha iniziato la carriera giornalistica al Miami Herald e poi è stato anche portavoce della Casa Bianca. È stato 5 anni e mezzo alla Casa Bianca durante l'amministrazione Obama, dall'inizio, dal gennaio del 2011, inizialmente ha lavorato con Joe Biden, col vicepresidente, e poi è stato il principale portavoce di Obama fino al 2014. Quindi le cose che a me va di chiedergli, oltre al tema che ci hanno consegnato, è per esempio, vorrei chiedergli alla fine di Donald Trump, perché penso che non è che ci capita tutti i giorni di avere uno che ha fatto la politica di Washington per anni e poi è stato alla Casa Bianca, e quindi alla fine, the last question, alla fine gli chiederemo se secondo lui in quei posti in cui lui è stato può entrare Trump con la sua famiglia e tutto il resto che ne consegue. Allora, però partiamo da questo, partiamo da una definizione di che cos'è questo giornalismo che oggi sembra andare molto di moda, se è vero che è un giornalismo nuovo, l'explanatory journalism, oppure è un giornalismo antico che è tornato di moda. Ci vuoi dare la tua definizione?
Thank you, Mario, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It's not often anymore that I get to talk about journalism and my life for 21 years as a journalist, and then for 5.5 years in the White House on the other side of journalists, sometimes being frustrated by reporters, but always believing that what reporters do, what you do, is vital to any democracy and any country that hopes to have democracy. So the reason why I wanted to talk about explanatory journalism is because I lived through at Time Magazine, and many of you are living through now, this evolution in media where there's a lot of upheaval and a lot of change, and some of it has put a lot of economic stress on media organizations, traditional ones, but it's also created opportunities for new media ventures and for more democratization of the press and more outlets. And one of the things that I've noted in at least the American media over the last several years is the expansion of and success of what we call explanatory journalism. And your question is a good one because you asked, is it an old thing that's now new, or is it an entirely new thing? And of course, explanatory journalism has been around for a very long time, but what the internet provides is the opportunity to serve explanatory journalism to any potential reader at any length, because there's infinite capacity online for background material and explanations and primary source documents. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people who care deeply about straightforward, honest, rigorous reporting that gets out of the sort of Twitter back and forth of the headlines and some of the partisanship and goes right to what's most important about journalism, which is informing people to help so that they can make decisions about what is going on and what they believe. In the United States, there's a lot of explanatory journalism happening, but I think probably the place where it's happening most effectively is an organic and entirely online site called Vox.com, VOX.com. If you don't know it, it's very good. It was started by some folks who left the Washington Post before Jeff Bezos bought it. It's an awesome website, and it does things like say, what are the 10 things you need to know about this issue or this debate or this medical revelation or discovery or what's happening in this country. And it gives you a way to give yourself background on material instead of just reading today's story. And today's stories, when they're in the print publication and you have 800 words or 1,000 words, there's not the space to go into the history of what the story is about. But online, of course, you can, and you can link to, if you're writing about a legal case or a piece of legislation in the Italian parliament, you can write about it, and you can have a link to the bill itself, the possible legislation itself, something that, of course, never existed before digital journalism. So I think in a world where there are a lot of voices and there's a tendency to the shortest possible news bites and the least substantial amount of information, explanatory journalism gives, I think, a lot of people in this room, hopefully, faith that there's a future for journalism and a future place for people who write thoughtful reporting, but also a place for regular citizens of our countries to go and find out the truth and to sort out what's true and what's not.
Grazie. Quello che penso io è che appunto, tra l'altro c'è stato a lungo anche un Pulitzer Prize dedicato al giornalismo, diciamo, chiamiamolo qui, di spiegazione, di approfondimento, di contesto. Quello che penso è che se oggi ha un successo sia dovuto al fatto che siamo bombardati da una tale quantità di informazione diversa di ogni tipo, di cui spesso non riusciamo a capire il valore, che ci sia in questo una ricerca di un bisogno di punti fermi, di qualcosa a cui agganciarsi. Nel discorso che ha fatto un discorso a Tokyo ultimamente il il direttore del Financial Times, Lionel Barber, in cui ha detto: oggi il giornalismo significa unire i puntini. Avete presente i disegni in cui la figura viene quando unite i puntini, connecting the dots? E lui dice, perché oggi ci sono i puntini che sono la quantità di informazioni che si ricevono ogni giorno, e la capacità del buon giornalismo è unirli e far emergere un'immagine e quindi restituire il contesto. Quello che sta accadendo però, ci sono secondo me due forme. Una è proprio una forma nuova che viene data a questo tipo di giornalismo, grazie all'incrocio tra diversi linguaggi, e sono per esempio i video di spiegazione, le schede. Ne avete visti molti, ci sono stati di validi su temi da Ebola alla Zika, che spiegano che cos'è questa malattia, come funziona, oppure che ti spiegano, ti mettono delle chart, delle immagini, dei dati che ti raccontano che cosa significa la questione dei profughi nei Balcani, 5 anni di guerra in Siria.
Exactly.
Allora, e questa qua è una nuova forma che sta crescendo molto, che ha bisogno di nuovi formati e che penso che camminerà molto nel futuro e che sta già avendo un buon successo, e che trova anche, dà anche soddisfazione ai giornalisti più, diciamo, più tradizionali. Io sono da 2 mesi e mezzo direttore di Repubblica e sto facendo abbastanza un lavoro un po' faticoso, strano, che forse non aveva mai fatto nessuno, cioè sto incontrando uno a uno tutti i giornalisti e li intervisto e mi siedo davanti a loro e parlo con ognuno di loro. Allora, la cosa che mi ha colpito è che moltissimi, anche grandi e che non sono assolutamente nativi digitali, però sentono la necessità di trovare delle forme nuove con cui raccogliere e spiegare le cose che hanno raccolto, le cose su cui lavorano da tempo. E allora la cosa interessante oggi è metterle insieme a quelli che per esempio lavorano nel visual desk e tirare fuori da loro il loro sapere, metterlo in punti, in modi chiari, e trovare nuove forme per raccontarlo. E poi invece c'è la parte che è la più antica e che è quella che dovrebbe essere nel DNA del giornalismo. Se oggi mi viene anche da dire che se oggi noi dobbiamo parlare di un giornalismo che spiega, che contestualizza, vuol dire che qualcosa non andava, che qualcosa non è stato fatto, forse per troppo tempo, perché per troppo tempo, inutile che ci prendiamo in giro, ha vinto un giornalismo che metteva davanti tra il vero e il verosimile, se il verosimile era più sexy preferiva il verosimile, e a cui il colore, il racconto, la narrativa, gli affreschi, come si sono chiamati a lungo nei giornali, ma è importante fare un bel affresco di quella storia, in cui tu andavi a raccontare cosa succedeva in Senato sulle unioni civili e anziché raccontare che cosa si stava discutendo, facevi una bella paginata in cui c'erano della gente che litigava e poi finivano a litigare al bar del Parlamento, alla buvette, ed era molto di colore. Io penso che ci sia assolutamente una fatica, una stanchezza verso questo tipo di giornalismo, che oggi, guardate, uno dei primi giorni che ero a Repubblica ho chiesto se era mai stato, ho detto: ma abbiamo mai pubblicato, a proposito di unioni civili, il testo della legge, l'articolato della legge? No, non l'avevamo mai pubblicato. Abbiamo fatto una pagina tirando fuori gli articoli, scoprendo che un sacco di cose, io ho scoperto un sacco di cose che non sapevo, l'abbiamo messo spiegando punto per punto che cosa c'era in gioco, chi era favorevole e chi era contro. Io ho ricevuto una quantità incredibile di mail il giorno dopo di gente che mi diceva: ah, ma finalmente, ma io non sapevo, io pensavo che riguardasse per esempio solo le unioni omosessuali, che non ci fossero anche le coppie di fatto, oppure i dico, quello che sono stati i Pax e i dico, troppo difficile per il traduttore adesso, ma pazienza. Bisognerebbe spiegare l'Italia, gli ultimi 30 anni, le cose che non abbiamo fatto, ma quindi il traduttore gli dica che è una roba tutta italiana, e allora E quindi mi sono reso conto che con una cosa che era francamente banale, però avevo fatto un gesto quasi rivoluzionario, quello di dire guardate cos'è il testo, ve lo spieghiamo e vi diciamo chi è a favore e chi è contro di ogni pezzo e come si possono orientare gli schieramenti. Allora, in questo io penso che il successo di oggi non sia l'invenzione, perché noi ci prendiamo in giro, non si sta inventando niente, ma sia una riscoperta fondamentale di qualcosa che si era perso.
I think that's a very good way of putting it, and I think that another point I want to pick up on that you mentioned is it's not an invention, but part of the reinvention or rediscovery is about finding new ways to tell the story, not just with words, but with video or charts. The one that I saw today, we have the Panama Papers, you know, the fascinating story about the bank and the law firm in Panama and everybody who was hiding their money there. And one story I saw online today had a visual graphic along with a long piece of text around a comic book story of a boy with a piggy bank who kept it in his room, but his mother was taking some of his money every day, so he didn't like that, so he moved the piggy bank to his friend's house. So his mother couldn't know that it was there, and he did it for the right reasons and it was legal, but then some of his friends found out that he was hiding a piggy bank in that other friend's house, and they brought their piggy banks, but the problem was they were stealing money from their mothers, and they were putting it and hiding it, and that was a way of explaining in a very graphic...
Dov'era questo? Fantastico.
Yeah, yes. This was on Vox.com also. I happened to look at that today. But I think, I think that the flip side of this is that journalistic organizations have the ability to provide much more information to many more people than ever before. And people, readers and viewers, have the ability to check whether or not your reporting is accurate in a way that they never could before, and they have a way to criticize you if you get it wrong in a way that they never have before. And I think that creates an accountability for traditional news organizations that never existed, and it's healthy. It's challenging when you know, this was the case at Time Magazine when I was there, and I know it's the case at newspapers and magazines now, that when you get something wrong, you used to be able to just move on and not have to worry about it and not talk about it, and now readers and critics can dig up the truth and they can post it online and have as many readers as you have, and so you have to contend with that. But I think that's very positive, actually. I think that's a good, healthy development that's a piece of explanatory journalism.
Ecco, in questo volevo chiederti se si può immaginare che sia una delle risposte alla crisi di credibilità. Cioè proprio trust è una parola centrale oggi, perché c'è inutile, se uno guarda qualunque tipo di indagine che viene fatta in Italia, in Europa, in tutto l'Occidente e chiede soprattutto ai lettori più giovani di che cosa si fidano, la prima risposta è una certa diffidenza tra quelli che vengono chiamati i legacy media, cioè i giornali tradizionali anche nelle loro versioni digitali. Cioè c'è una diffidenza, un non fidarsi e c'è una necessità di ricostruire una fiducia, se ci si riesce. Questo è uno dei temi che vanno affrontati. Tra l'altro è curioso perché in qualunque ricerca fatta in qualunque posto in Europa e negli Stati Uniti, se gli si chiede qual è la fonte che vi dà più fiducia, è quando le notizie che mi vengono segnalate dagli amici, quelle che vengono scambiate, perché il fatto che me la segnali un amico mi dà fiducia. Poi però l'amico spesso gli segnala una notizia che poi prende da un media di cui loro di cui non credono molto, ma diciamo che l'amico è il timbro di credibilità. Allora io ti chiedo se questo modo di fare giornalismo può essere una risposta alla crisi di fiducia in cui viviamo da alcuni anni.
I think the answer is yes, and I think it's because it's about transparency. When you're providing information to a reader and you're being transparent about where it comes from, and you're not putting values on it, saying this is good information, this is bad information, but you're you're sort of explaining the facts to readers, I think that builds trust. And I think when media organizations get it wrong, if you get a story wrong and you admit it and even write about how you got it wrong and what went wrong, I think that builds trust too, because I think one of the reasons why, at least in the United States, there's a fall in trust in the media is because many years and decades of belief that the media, mainstream media, was just telling the American people what to believe or what was true, and never admitting when they got it wrong. And I think you've seen in the United States a number of organizations now putting a lot of effort into having basically public editors whose job it is to critique the newspaper, to say, actually, I don't think this story was right, or this story was unfair, or these facts are wrong, in the newspaper's own pages or online site. And I think that's a healthy development too.
Qui in prima fila abbiamo uno dei forse l'unica public editor che c'è in Italia, che è Anna Masera alla Stampa. Cioè, lei è tornata per fare la public editor esattamente il giorno che io andavo via, quindi siamo un grande tempismo. E, sì, penso questo. Prima un ragazzo mi ha chiesto fuori per una radio della scuola di giornalismo, mi ha chiesto cosa pensavo del fatto che anche i media tradizionali spesso diffondono bufale o immagini sbagliate, video sbagliati. Devo dire che io mi sono rasserenato quando l'altro giorno lo ha fatto anche Beppe Grillo, perché essendo Beppe Grillo grande giudice di questa cosa, il fatto che anche lui abbia messo un'immagine di una piazza di Napoli che era piena per il Papa dicendo che era una piazza anti-Renzi, e questo mi ha rasserenato. E io gli ho risposto che il punto è, primo, la capacità di correggersi tempestivamente, e terzo, di farlo in maniera chiara e trasparente. Cioè non correggersi nascondendo, facendo finta sotto il tappeto, no, ma io non ho sbagliato, ma di correggersi facendo vedere che effettivamente l'errore c'è stato e la correzione c'è. Una lunga strada, però secondo me questa è la strada. E l'altra è quella di è inutile far credere sempre che si sanno le cose. Molto spesso ci si trova a raccontare, ad affrontare sviluppi di storie di cui non conosciamo realmente che cosa stia accadendo, dove va. Allora, in una storia come questa, secondo me, in tutti quei momenti è fondamentale spiegare ai lettori, dire chiaramente c'è questa storia in sviluppo di cui non sono chiare le cose. Vi informeremo piano piano quando riusciremo a capire che cosa sta succedendo. Ultimamente terribilmente l'abbiamo avuto negli attentati a Parigi, negli attentati a Bruxelles, in cui uno è tentato di rincorrere l'idea: sono in corso attentati di un certo tipo, oppure che cosa sono, che tipo di esplosioni sono. E allora l'idea di dire ci sono queste cose di cui non si riesce a capire, ammettere che in quel momento si sta cercando di capire ma non abbiamo una risposta, secondo me è una chiave anche per ricostruire un rapporto di fiducia.
Right. I think that's true, and I'll just add from my personal experience. When I left journalism and went to government and was on the other side of it, my view of reporting changed a little bit. But because when you're being written about and you see reporters taking shortcuts or news organizations publishing something and declaring that it's true and then not admitting it when they get it wrong, it can be enormously frustrating. And I think that media organizations win when they're very transparent about not having all the facts and not rushing to conclusions, and rather just providing the information that we know with the caveat that it could change, that these are the facts that we know today or at this hour, but it might shift as we get more information.
Ti faccio una domanda come giornalista del Miami Herald, di Time Magazine. Allora ti voglio chiedere questo: com'è possibile però, perché noi oggi assistiamo però a una polarizzazione della società, del dibattito politico, in cui noi pensiamo di essere molto polarizzati in Italia, ma lo siamo molto poco rispetto agli Stati Uniti, dove c'è proprio una iperpolarizzazione. Tu puoi oggi ascoltare televisioni, radio che semplicemente ti confermano l'idea che tu hai del mondo e non ti mettono mai in discussione. E allora io mi chiedo, noi parliamo di quel giornalismo di dati, di fatti, che spiega, e dall'altra parte invece abbiamo una battaglia tutta fatta su, oggi non ci sono più le ideologie, ma tutta fatta su, a parte che è gridata, ma tutta fatta sulla partigianeria. Allora ti chiedo, com'è possibile però tenere insieme queste due cose? Com'è possibile? Non è che in questo gridare, che sembra di stare in uno stadio, con le due curve dello stadio, dov'è lo spazio per un buon giornalismo?
Well, I worry that it's a battle to the end, because you're absolutely right. In the United States, we have both phenomena where you have more people have more access to more information and in many ways better reporting than they've ever had. But more people choose to consume only the information and the media that confirms their political point of view. So if you in the United States only watch Fox News and only listen to Rush Limbaugh and only read the Weekly Standard or the Wall Street Journal editorial page, your perception of American politics and your belief about what the facts are on any given subject are completely different from someone who only reads liberal publications and watches MSNBC, the more liberal cable channel, and who is always looking to be confirmed in his or her views on the liberal side. We lived in this universe, and President Obama still does, but when I was working for him, we found it very difficult to break through that paradigm on either side, and obviously particularly for us on the right. And one way that we tried to get information to people was information that we thought was important for them to know, and a story that reflected what we thought was accurate, was to go around traditional media and go around even the untraditional but partisan media and try to reach readers and viewers where they were getting their information. So he's continued to do it since I left, but the president would give interviews on Twitter. He would give he did an interview with Zach Galifianakis, the actor, on a comedy show called Between Two Ferns, and it was enormously successful. And we would do late night television shows with comedians, Jon Stewart and the like, because we knew that a lot of people were getting their news from Jon Stewart and The Daily Show, especially young people, and we knew that people were tuning out what they were hearing on either through the mainstream media or through the partisan media. So I think it's a challenge now. In the old days, politicians or major institutions could just, president could give a speech and all the news would cover it, their work was done, the people knew what he or she had said, and that was everything you had to do that day. But now, if the President of the United States gives a speech during the middle of the day, there's overwhelming likelihood that not a single TV station or the broadcast channels will even cover it. So those viewers never know that it happened. You have to find other means to get that information out.
Ma allora adesso faccio una domanda di frustrazione di giornalisti. Obama è un presidente che fa molto poche conferenze stampa, per esempio. Anche quando tu eri alla Casa Bianca ne faceva poche. I giornalisti si lamentavano perché preferiva parlare direttamente ai cittadini, agli elettori, saltando i giornalisti. Noi abbiamo un Presidente del Consiglio che si vede che ha preso un po' come modello Obama, che anche lui, se può, salta le conferenze stampa e parla direttamente.
They get along very well, yeah. Renzi and Obama. Right?
Esatto. Allora, perché questa scelta?
So I got this question a lot when I was press secretary, and some criticism about it. We actually did a study, gathered the data on this, and it is true that President Obama gave fewer, when I was there, and I think it's still true, fewer press conferences in terms of the numbers of press conferences. but he would give much longer press conferences, and he would give far more interviews than either President George W. Bush or Bill Clinton. And so my argument, and I was telling it from my point of view, was that minute for minute, word for word, President Obama actually spent more time taking questions from the independent media than President George W. Bush did. And Bush would give press conferences often when he would have a foreign leader come to the White House, sit in the Oval Office in those two chairs. The press would come in, there'd be one question, maybe two, and then the press comes out. And I know from working in the White House, you can manipulate that really easily. Not manipulate it in the sense that you know what the main question of the day is, so you know what to expect. You know, you have control of the room, right? You get them, you can, the reporters, sorry, have to go. The president and the prime minister need to have their meeting. And that's a pretty easy environment. A much harder environment is to stand at a podium and do an hour-long press conference where you don't know what you're going to get. And President Obama would do that far more than President Bush would do. The other side of it is, and I would tell my friends in the press, when I was covering the White House, and I covered both President Clinton and President George W. Bush, I never thought that I was going to get my news by being at a press conference with Bill Clinton or George Bush, or by getting fed information from the press secretary's office. And so I didn't have a lot of sympathy for the complaint about access, or a lot of sympathy for the complaint that we at the White House were using new media to push out information. Because if we hadn't, it would be malpractice, right? If you're not, a good example of this is that you can now, all the photographs that the White House photographers take, they load on, thousands of them, they load on the whitehouse.gov or on the Flickr station, and that makes the professional journalists, reporters, or photographers who cover the White House frustrated. But in the old days, if you were a White House photographer working for President Reagan or President Kennedy, you would hand those photos to the Associated Press and the New York Times and hope they might use them. And so they were deciding, the New York Times and the Associated Press were deciding what pictures the public got to see. And our argument was always, why can't they see all of them? They know that they're White House pictures, they know they're official pictures. It doesn't replace independent news, it's just more information for people to consume, and I believe that more information is always better.
Ancora una domanda su Obama. Quando Obama lanciò la sua campagna elettorale, ormai sono passati 8 anni a febbraio, era a Springfield in Illinois e lui disse che lui voleva che il paese andava unificato, che lui voleva essere un unificatore. Mi sembra che questa sia la cosa su cui di più è stato sconfitto, il paese non è unificato. La campagna elettorale di oggi ci dice ancora di più di quanto gli Stati Uniti siano divisi. Allora, quanto è responsabilità dell'informazione questa divisione, e se pensi che si potrà solo allargare o invece a un certo punto si potrà restringere?
Well, I'd say two things. One, first of all, the media is partly responsible, but I don't want to argue that President Obama bears no responsibility. The fact is he is very disappointed that the environment has only gotten more partisan and that there's more fighting and more gridlock. And he certainly considers it the biggest disappointment probably of his presidency. And I think if you look at American politics, it's very interesting that the last 3 presidents all campaigned in part on the promise of ending or reducing partisan fighting. Bill Clinton, George Bush, and Barack Obama. Obama most of all, but all 3 did. And I think it says a lot about how partisan our politics have become. It's sort of boring, but one of the reasons why is the way we, in America, we have the Senate, and every state has 2 senators, no matter how many people that state has. So California has 54 million people, there are 2 senators. Wyoming has about 500,000 people, I think, or 1 million, they have 2 senators. But then the House of Representatives reflects the numbers you get based on the population. Those districts that are drawn and decided who gets to vote for which member of the House are drawn by the party in power in the states. And whether it's a Republican Party or a Democratic Party, if you're in power, you draw those districts in a way that helps your party. And it's really ruined politics in Washington, because it means if you're a Republican and you're in a safe Republican district, you know that you're always going to win re-election unless somebody who's another Republican and more conservative, more far-right challenges you. So your interest is not in compromising when you get to Washington. It's in protecting your flank on the right. So you have there's no benefit to making a deal with the Democrats. And same with Democrats in the House of Representatives. They may come from a district that's been drawn in a way that there's no chance they can lose unless another Democrat comes along and challenges them, and that Democrat's more liberal, more pure, and it makes it very hard for people to come together in Washington. And it's a huge problem, and it's not getting any better.
Ecco, poi lascio un attimo la politica, ci torniamo alla fine. Oggi lavori per Amazon, ti muovi tra Washington e Seattle, e vai avanti e indietro. Mi piacerebbe capire che cosa questo tuo bagaglio di esperienza e anche tutto questo tuo avere ragionato per una vita sul giornalismo e nel rapporto col giornalismo, come lo usi adesso nel tuo lavoro che fai ad Amazon?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I love to talk about myself. But when I left the White House in June of 2014, I had been there for 5.5 years, and I had promised my wife I would be there for 2 years. So it was that's the only reason why I left. I have 2 kids, and those jobs are very demanding. My children are 10 and 14, but they were young when I started at the White House, much younger. And I loved it. I loved every minute about it, and it's an honor to be in public service. And I think as much cynicism as there is about politics in the United States, and I'm sure there's cynicism about politics and government in Italy and elsewhere in Europe, we need people to have faith enough in the process to go run for office, work in the public sector, and try to change the world for the better. I remember in some of the worst days that we would have at the White House, I remember especially one day, and I can't remember what the problem was anymore, but I remember everybody was kind of down, and we were in the Roosevelt Room, which is next to the Oval Office. And the president said, don't ever forget that you're in jobs where you have more opportunity to do more good for more people than you'll ever have in your life. And don't forget that. So I loved it. And when I left, I tried to figure out what I was going to do, and I could have just gone on TV and been a pundit, and I could have done a bunch of things. But what I really loved about both of my lives, in journalism and in government, was the diversity of issues I had to deal with. I was a generalist, right? I was based in Moscow during the collapse of the Soviet Union. I was in Washington for different administrations covering politics and domestic and foreign policy. And then in the White House, working for Vice President Biden and then President Obama, I had to answer questions about every subject imaginable. And that energy and diversity was something I wanted. And the creative energy was something I really wanted. And I loved being part of a team. That's what I discovered at the White House. And so when I looked around and I started talking, when I left the White House, if you had told me I was going to go work for a big company, I would have thought, man, probably not. And then when I went out and met with folks in Seattle at Amazon and loved the people and I loved the creative energy, and I've been there for 13 months now, I still discover on a daily basis new things that Amazon is doing that I didn't even know about, and I work for Amazon. It is an incredibly exciting place to be. And, it's maybe not the same as working for a government where you're helping people and changing the world at really profound levels, life and death. But a company like Amazon that invents all the time and changes the way we live and makes consumers' lives better is also changing the world. And I found that I like being part of that. So it's been a very exciting change. To answer your last question, we're a big company. We get news coverage. We have a very famous CEO who gets a lot of attention, not just for Amazon, but for his space company and his newspaper. So we get, part of my day is always devoted to press relations and what how we're talking to the press and the stories we're telling. So it's always still part of my life.
Aspetta, mi è venuta in mente una domanda che ho detto, è la persona giusta, ma House of Cards? Cioè,
It's all true.
quanto è vero?
Yeah. I love the show. I love Kevin Spacey, and one great fun thing I got to do when I was press secretary is we did a spoof video for the White House Correspondents' Dinner where Kevin Spacey was playing himself as in the House of Cards, and he called me and we had a conversation, and it was a lot of fun. But I'm relieved to tell you that it's not true. It doesn't work that way. There's not a lot of that I know of, and certainly not in my administration, a lot of murders and things that take place in American politics. One thing I have to say that they've gotten really good at is no show about the American presidency has been more accurate in its portrayal of Air Force One. It is exactly right on House of Cards. And they got it wrong a little bit on The West Wing, remember that show? And also Scandal, is that, the spaces aren't the same. But on House of Cards, even the cup holders are the same, and the conference room is the same. So maybe somebody who's advising the show has been on Air Force One, because they get it right. But the show that's most accurate is really The West Wing. It's not, life isn't Hollywood, and the White House isn't Hollywood, but that show does capture some of what it's like to work in the West Wing of the White House.
Ok, no, l'ho detto, scusa, questa non mi capita più di farla. Invece c'è un'altra cosa che mi colpisce. In tutto l'Occidente c'è un fenomeno di elettori giovani che c'è un fenomeno nuovo, elettori giovani che amano, fanno campagna elettorale e sostengono candidati che sono invece i loro nonni. In questo momento negli Stati Uniti sono i giovani che fanno campagna per Bernie Sanders, è successo in Inghilterra, in Gran Bretagna, a Londra con Corbyn nel Partito Laburista, il nuovo leader dei laburisti Corbyn, sostenuto dalla parte più giovane del partito e potrebbe essere il loro nonno. In questo momento c'è un fenomeno che nella politica francese Alain Juppé potrebbe essere un candidato perché tra i giovani risulta il più credibile. Io me lo spiego, è una cosa secondo me che non era aspettata, perché si aspettava che i giovani in questa fase guardassero ai giovani. Me lo spiego forse con il tono di voce, che Sanders l'idealismo di Sanders, l'idea che sia meno per i compromessi, gli dà un tono di voce più autentico. Voglio sapere che cosa ne pensi.
I think it is a strange phenomenon, and it is, I think, surprising in American politics, since our previous three presidents have all been fairly young, Bill Clinton, George Bush, when he started, and Barack Obama, that the three top contenders right now, or three of the four, are in their late 60s or well into their 70s, Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump. And you're right, the passion among some young Americans for Bernie Sanders is surprising, I think. And I think it's because on the liberal side, there wasn't a young option. Hillary Clinton is viewed as, even though she would be the first woman president, which I think would be a huge milestone in the United States, and something that we shouldn't forget, she has been on stage for 30 years, so she's very familiar. That's her biggest challenge, is that she's not new, she's not fresh. Obama was so new and exciting when he emerged out of almost nowhere in 2007, or after the 2004 convention. But I think also that I think Sanders represents that idealism that you often find among politically oriented young Americans who don't want to compromise, who are super progressive and find in what he's saying something to get excited about. I think going to our last conversation about partisanship in the United States, I think purists on the left and the right are never going to get anything done in D.C., given the nature of our politics. You have to compromise. You have to believe that the other side has something worth listening to. No political party, no ideology has a corner on the truth. And one of the things that I think has been, I know, frustrating for this president is that he's viewed in the American context by Republicans as super liberal, but I know personally that he's very pragmatic. I mean, he's a progressive and he believes in the liberal ideals, but in America they criticize the health care plan, the Republicans do, and what a lot of people don't know is that the origins of that particular health care plan that became Obamacare, it was written by a Republican senator named John Chafee in 1993 and 94 as an alternative to Bill Clinton's health care proposal. And it was supported by the Republican establishment, and it never became law. Mitt Romney turned it into the law in Massachusetts. So basically, its entire provenance was Republican. And then when Barack Obama made it the health care law of the land, it's socialism by a communist who was born in Kenya. So it's kind of ridiculous the way our politics, the partisanship of our politics even ignores the facts of our policies.
Veniamo alla domanda delle domande. Questo qua doveva essere un dialogo, cioè dovevo chiacchierare anch'io, ma francamente siccome c'è qua lui, mi piace di più fare l'intervista.
I'm very shy. I get very nervous about answering questions, but go ahead.
No. Another question. Donald Trump, yes. That's the question. Lo vedremo mai alla Casa Bianca?
How do people feel about that possibility here?
Vi piace l'idea?
Yeah. Here's what I would say. I think he has a very good chance of becoming the Republican nominee. And while he would enter a race for the presidency as the underdog, presumably against Hillary Clinton, anything can happen in American politics. And what people think about the race for the presidency, we have a very balanced electorate, and even the biggest landslide we've had since 1984 was in 2008 when Obama won, and it was an electoral college landslide. He won, the electoral college votes overwhelmingly against McCain, but the popular vote was 53-47. That's it, 53% to 47%, and that's the biggest margin that we've seen in a long, long time. Every other election has been closer, and you think about, Bill Clinton's were in the same range, 6 or 7%.
Bush and Gore.
Bush and Gore was so close, but in the Clinton races were a little different because there was a third-party candidate. But Bush and Gore, Bush Kerry, Obama Romney was closer than that. So it's certainly possible that he could become president, and you might guess how I feel about that. But what is fascinating about what's happening with the Trump phenomenon is that there has been a divorce in the Republican Party between the elite, the establishment, the people who run the party and have run it for years, and the rank and file Republican voters who basically said, you don't represent me anymore. A party that has been traditionally focused on small government and lower taxation and had made a lot of promises about how it was looking out for the common person in America, is finding that the average Republican voter in America is saying, I don't trust you, and so they're embracing the two top candidates for the Republican Party are hated by the Republican establishment, Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. So if I were still a reporter covering politics in America, I would find that a fascinating story to cover, because if Trump gets the nomination, I think the party explodes. If Trump doesn't get the nomination, the party could explode, because he'll go to the convention this summer with the most votes and the most delegates. He may not get enough to win the nomination, but if he goes with more than anybody else and then they don't give it to him, he may run as a third-party candidate. He may, there could be a real battle for the soul of the Republican Party. I'm glad I'm not involved anymore. But he's the least informed possible president that we've had in a long, long time.
Ecco, ma come fenomeno, perché che cos'è che sta spingendo un numero importante di elettori repubblicani ad andare a votare? Molti sono persone che non votavano da tempo o non avevano anche mai votato. Perché? Che cos'è che Trump muove?
I think there are two things. One is broader than the Republican Party, and there's an anti-establishment populist strain right now in both parties that is giving some success to Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side and obviously a lot of success to Donald Trump on the Republican side. There's a feeling that in the United States among some voters, and they're often, if you look at Trump's voters, they're a lot of basically whites without college degrees who feel economically like they've been left out and that they heard a lot of promises from politicians of both parties, but their lives haven't gotten any better in the last 20 or 30 years. They feel globalization has been bad for them, and the digital world is passing them by. And they're looking for people who are going to fix that problem, but also who are giving voice to their anger and anxiety. And you hear that from Trump, and then you also hear it on the liberal side from Bernie Sanders. And then within the Republican Party, the other piece of this is on the really dark side of it. You hear a lot of Americans say, well, I love him because he's not politically correct, and he says things that we all think. And he says things that are racist and sexist and terrible in many ways. And I think there's obviously, America's an extraordinary country with, that I'm very proud of as an American and somebody who worked in a White House. But, we have a long history of, as a country with a lot of, immigration is the American story, but we have a long history of tension over immigration. We have obviously a long history over the African-American experience in the United States. And there's still, what I think that piece of the Trump phenomenon has shown is that there's, this story isn't over. Electing an African-American president didn't mean that there's no more racism in America. It didn't mean that there still wasn't a lot of anxiety about immigration, for example. So I think that's what Trump is tapping into. What's shocking to me, people who go a little too far and say, well, Trump is, America's version of this bombastic person talking about your anger and tapping into anger, reminds them of Hitler, for example. And I think that's going much too far. One, I don't think Donald Trump's ever going to become president. It could happen, but I think it's unlikely. Two, the American economy is actually doing very well right now, relatively. There's still a lot of people who need help, and there's still a lot of people who feel a lot of economic anxiety. But 5% unemployment, and areas of the country that are incredibly vibrant economically makes us. Puts us in a position, the United States in a position that I think a lot of countries would envy. And it's not, usually you find the really extreme, dangerous kind of populist movements around the world getting real traction when there is economic crisis and when people are really disenfranchised. And I don't think we have that, fortunately, in the United States.
Bene, noi praticamente abbiamo finito, avevamo un'ora abbiamo usato. Mi viene da chiederti, ma hai fatto sostanzialmente 3 vite, perché hai fatto 3 carriere. Quale sarà la quarta? Cosa ti piacerebbe fare?
Retirement. No, I'm going to manage. I'm a really, really bad musician in a really, really bad garage band. But my son, who's 14, is in a really good band. And he's my retirement plan. So I'm going to manage his...
The manager.
Yeah, the manager of my son's rock band. That's my next job.
Grazie, in bocca al lupo. Grazie mille. Arianna se n'è andata, probabilmente non c'è più. Gli devo solo chiedere l'anno prossimo, quando mi invita, di cambiare questa fotografia, perché mi sono arrivati 2 messaggini di vecchi colleghi della stampa. Uno è pessimo, si chiama Flavio Corazza, fa il caporedattore centrale, che dice: smetti di distribuire la tua foto di quando avevi 13 anni. Buon pomeriggio a tutti. Ha lavorato a CNN e poi ha iniziato la carriera giornalistica al Miami Herald e poi è stato anche portavoce della Casa Bianca. È stato 5 anni e mezzo alla Casa Bianca durante l'amministrazione Obama, dall'inizio, dal gennaio del 2011, inizialmente ha lavorato con Joe Biden, col vicepresidente, e poi è stato il principale portavoce di Obama fino al 2014. Quindi le cose che a me va di chiedergli, oltre al tema che ci hanno consegnato, è per esempio, vorrei chiedergli alla fine di Donald Trump, perché penso che non è che ci capita tutti i giorni di avere uno che ha fatto la politica di Washington per anni e poi è stato alla Casa Bianca, e quindi alla fine, the last question, alla fine gli chiederemo se secondo lui in quei posti in cui lui è stato può entrare Trump con la sua famiglia e tutto il resto che ne consegue. Allora, però partiamo da questo, partiamo da una definizione di che cos'è questo giornalismo che oggi sembra andare molto di moda, se è vero che è un giornalismo nuovo, l'explanatory journalism, oppure è un giornalismo antico che è tornato di moda. Ci vuoi dare la tua definizione?
Thank you, Mario, and thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. It's not often anymore that I get to talk about journalism and my life for 21 years as a journalist, and then for 5.5 years in the White House on the other side of journalists, sometimes being frustrated by reporters, but always believing that what reporters do, what you do, is vital to any democracy and any country that hopes to have democracy. So the reason why I wanted to talk about explanatory journalism is because I lived through at Time Magazine, and many of you are living through now, this evolution in media where there's a lot of upheaval and a lot of change, and some of it has put a lot of economic stress on media organizations, traditional ones, but it's also created opportunities for new media ventures and for more democratization of the press and more outlets. And one of the things that I've noted in at least the American media over the last several years is the expansion of and success of what we call explanatory journalism. And your question is a good one because you asked, is it an old thing that's now new, or is it an entirely new thing? And of course, explanatory journalism has been around for a very long time, but what the internet provides is the opportunity to serve explanatory journalism to any potential reader at any length, because there's infinite capacity online for background material and explanations and primary source documents. And I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people who care deeply about straightforward, honest, rigorous reporting that gets out of the sort of Twitter back and forth of the headlines and some of the partisanship and goes right to what's most important about journalism, which is informing people to help so that they can make decisions about what is going on and what they believe. In the United States, there's a lot of explanatory journalism happening, but I think probably the place where it's happening most effectively is an organic and entirely online site called Vox.com, VOX.com. If you don't know it, it's very good. It was started by some folks who left the Washington Post before Jeff Bezos bought it. It's an awesome website, and it does things like say, what are the 10 things you need to know about this issue or this debate or this medical revelation or discovery or what's happening in this country. And it gives you a way to give yourself background on material instead of just reading today's story. And today's stories, when they're in the print publication and you have 800 words or 1,000 words, there's not the space to go into the history of what the story is about. But online, of course, you can, and you can link to, if you're writing about a legal case or a piece of legislation in the Italian parliament, you can write about it, and you can have a link to the bill itself, the possible legislation itself, something that, of course, never existed before digital journalism. So I think in a world where there are a lot of voices, and there's a tendency to the shortest possible news bites and the least substantial amount of information. Explanatory journalism gives, I think, a lot of people in this room, hopefully, faith that there's a future for journalism and a future place for people who write thoughtful reporting, but also a place for regular citizens of our countries to go and find out the truth and to sort out what's true and what's not.
Grazie. Quello che penso io è che appunto, tra l'altro c'è stato a lungo anche un Pulitzer Prize dedicato al giornalismo, diciamo, chiamiamolo qui, di spiegazione, di approfondimento, di contesto. Quello che penso è che se oggi ha un successo sia dovuto al fatto che siamo bombardati da una tale quantità di informazione diversa di ogni tipo, di cui spesso non riusciamo a capire il valore, che ci sia in questo una ricerca di un bisogno di punti fermi, di qualcosa a cui agganciarsi. Nel discorso che ha fatto un discorso a Tokyo ultimamente il direttore del Financial Times, Lionel Barber, in cui ha Buon pomeriggio a tutti. Abbiamo un ospite d'eccezione per cui io chiacchiereremo e farò delle domande che andranno anche molto al di là del tema che il nostro capo ci ha assegnato. Il capo sapete chi è? L'organizzatrice, ma dov'è? Eccola lì, lei è il nostro capo. Lei ogni anno mi dice: tu devi venire nel tal giorno, alla tal ora, devi fare questa cosa, io non discuto, arrivo, faccio quello che lei mi ha comandato, però l'unica libertà che mi prende è di andare anche fuori tema. E siccome abbiamo un ospite veramente d'eccezione, Jay Carney oggi è uno dei vicepresidenti di Amazon e si occupa di tutta la parte delle pubbliche relazioni, del corporate affairs, però ha una storia notevole alle spalle, un giornalista, ha lavorato a lungo a Time Magazine, a Washington, ha girato il mondo, è stato alla
Invitia- Invitiamo il gentile pubblico alla fine di ogni evento di collaborare per lasciare la sala per l'allestimento dell'evento successivo. Grazie.